Welcome to the GoldenEdge podcast. In this episode I catch up with John Common, who is the creator of the upcoming Dead Pixels 2. It's been over a year since I last talked to John. We did a horror podcast Halloween last year, so I thought it would be a good idea to catch up and see what he's been up to really. In this podcast we mostly talk about how and why John got into creating games, and towards the end of the podcast he gives some recommendations for horror movies for this year, which I'm really looking forward to checking out. I'll leave a link to John's Twitter in the description where you can stay up to date with all the Dead Pixels 2 news, and that's at CSR_studios. And I'll also list a few of his movie recommendations. So without further ado, I give you John Common. So welcome back to the podcast, John. How have you been?
Good. I've got a little bit of a cold just now,
Yeah.
but no. Other than that, good. Thank you.
I think it's going around. I was looking at your Twitter and stuff like that, and I've noticed that you have actually been really busy. You were at is it EGX?
Yeah, I was at EGX. What would it have been, like 3 weeks ago, and I'm at London Comic Con in like 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
it's like it's not a good time to be sick. But I've kind of I've thought worst possible outcome. I'm just going to use the same build that was at EGX at London Comic Con because that went down really well. And
oh, so you would have considered using like a whole different setup?
Yeah. Like I generally like do like little changes, and then like I'm taking notes, and like earlier this year I done multiple events like almost back to back. And I was just making little changes each night, and like some people are like, "Oh, don't do that." It's like, yeah, but like worst possible outcome, I go to yesterday. If I've horribly broken it, I'll go back to yesterday's, like, you know. And so like I think I had like 18 builds after like 2 months because of like different events and like a new build each day, and it was just like adding little tweaks and just being like, okay, like this bit in the tutorial still isn't working. Like I'll change it for that next day. And so like
so I got completely confused there. I thought you were talking about the actual setup, like
no,
your stand and stuff.
Like,
so like the actual game changes each night. That's
I
really
guess it's like a little technical. Just build is just generally like the completed like program.
Yeah.
But I think I'm mostly reusing stuff between like event. You know, I ordered a massive amount of badges and a massive amount of flyers at the beginning of the year, and a big giant poster. And most of that stuff, I've had to order more badges for London Comic Con, but other than that, it's mostly the exact same stuff.
I seen the badges on your Twitter, and actually I'm pretty jealous I'm not going to them because I want some of them badges. You know the little one with like the cop zombie on it?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think he's on. Yeah. He must be on the poster as well.
Yeah, he's on the older box art, which I like to use as much as I can, just because like I've got the newer box art now, so it's like I need to get this zombie cop in as much as possible.
Yeah.
Which was actually kind of like an homage of the RoboCop movie poster. Like if you look at the zombie cop like pose and stepping out of the car and all that, it's the RoboCop film poster.
But so I suppose then that's a great opportunity to get feedback on the different builds then, and once you're at these conventions.
Yeah, like I'm always like just kind of like behind people like watching them and just kind of like taking notes and like learning what doesn't work and like catching bugs that like I've maybe missed elsewhere. There was actually kind of an annoying bug at EGX, and it was a 4-day event, and I think it was like day 2 or 3 before day 1 it was really bad. Day 2 it was almost gone, and then like day 3 I finally like squished it, and it was I was feeling really bad because I had these metallic badges for people that finished the demo. And I basically anyone that had it crash on them, I was just like, well, you could have finished the demo, so here's a badge.
Right.
And so I burnt through quite a lot of them during EGX the first 2 days. I think I ran out on like the last couple hours. Like I ran out of a lot of things at EGX, which was kind of good overall. I was selling posters as well, and I think I sold out on the Saturday. And so like Sunday, it was kind of nice because I was there with my girlfriend. I was able to just like take down the signs saying about selling posters, and just like we just wandered off and like played games for a couple hours and like came back to the stand.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty impressive that you were able to actually like code on the fly and like change things on. Like, I'm amazed you even had time to kind of do that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, mostly it was just kind of little changes. EGX
like
was
tweaks.
A bit different, just being I was there with my girlfriend, but normally it's like me in a hotel room by myself. So it's just like I watch the worst TV and like do a little work and then like
right.
I don't know, like eat takeaway foods. So like yeah.
So it's like mostly changing the speed of things or how things pop up and stuff. It's not like
just little things like that. Just changes in like tutorial and like fixing little bugs that like come up that I notice. I think there was like EGX wasn't too bad. There wasn't a lot of changes there, but like a previous event, like I quickly coded in a thing. Normally in Dead Pixels 2, like when you're playing co-op, like two people enter a door and like it'll then transition to that area. And like what I realized was like some people aren't patient enough to wait for both people to be in the door, and one person will be in the door and one person will be heading towards the door, and then like the first person will come out the door and the second person goes in, and then they say the game's broken. And I'm like, no, if you both go in the door at the same time. And so like now it'll actually like there's an option, so you can turn it off and on. In my opinion, it's definitely should be on for 3 or more players, but like for 2 players, you're maybe best leaving it off. Where like when one person's in the door and the other person isn't, there's like a countdown starts to like do an automatic transition.
That's a good idea.
And so like there's a 5-second counter, and if you both go in the door, it's instant. And so like that was a little change from like watching people play. That was a really interesting one of like that was at Res. I came up with that idea because like I realized when I got to the Saturday, the first 2 days were great, and then the Saturday was like maybe a bit more casual, and like I had like 3 people in a row have the same issue and blamed the game. And so I was just like, yeah, I need to like do something about this. Because like they were a bit more impatient. Like previous days, like people eventually got it, or like I came out and like pointed at the screen. I'll do that a bit during tutorials. I'll like point at the text or something rather than like saying what to do.
And what sort of the crowd, are they kind of a bit rude and just like, oh, this doesn't work, or are they like, is it critical feedback? Or
I mean generally like people that don't want to play will just kind of abandon it, and they'll maybe even say thank you. Like, and that's not bad. Like you can't expect everyone to like a game, but I've never had anyone be really rude. I did feel a little bad that there was like there was once like 2 women playing that were like reading all the in-game text kind of mockingly, and that did make me feel a little bad. But like I kind of know from like playing games with my own friends that like we've done that, you know. It just kind of felt a little bad standing behind them, and it's like I didn't really need to hear their dramatic reading of all this text.
Yeah. And so I'd seen like a picture of, it looked really cool. Like you had these VHS tapes, but they were like lit from below and stuff. Like where do you get like your designs for your actual stall and stuff like that?
So like the VHS cases, like I literally just like go to charity shops and like stock up on like VHS cases, and I print artwork off myself on like photo paper and like put it in. Nice. And then get like I buy like LED lights that are normally like Halloween lights or Christmas lights, and I pull off like the pumpkins or the Christmas trees or whatever, and I just shove them in the box, and it'll light the whole box up normally, as long as it's not like too well lit an area. As long as it's a dark enough area, they light up really well. I just kind of do stuff like that. I also have like a VCR that's been gutted, and I have that at events. And like I've got an old boombox as well, but that thing's far too heavy to take to film. It's a real shame. Like I'd like to take that to more places, but I tend to travel by train. And
I mean that's what I was thinking. Like it must be like a logistical nightmare to get all this stuff to the event and then like dismantle all. And
it's generally not too bad when like it's close to like the train. Like when I went to EGX, like I changed trains once. And it was a station I was really familiar with, and then I just got off at the NEC, and like it was a bit of a walk, but I just like walked through the NEC to the hall. But like I'm at London Comic Con, and that's going to be a bit different because I think I've got like 3 separate trains to get.
Oh, nightmare! Yeah.
To get round London. From like London Euston, so I've got like a 3.5 hour train, and I've got like half an hour of like 3 separate trains. And like the last time I done an event in London, like it actually it went kind of bad because like I had a friend with me at least, so that kind of helped a little. But I was carrying a very large suitcase with 2 monitors in it, and I had a poster tube, like a giant poster tube, like bungee corded to the side of that suitcase, and then I had like a shoulder messenger bag that had my laptop and 2 computers in it, 2 tiny computers. And when I was going down an escalator, well, earlier, like 5 minutes earlier, I kind of saw like the strap on the bag, and I'm just like, this is going to break. Just last to London Euston, just last that. It didn't at all. And it snapped when I was going down an escalator, and like the bag with my laptop and 2 computers in it like fell, and like I almost fell and brought like the suitcase down with me. So like my laptop, it was not in the best of conditions, and it kind of got worse and worse until I bought a new one a few months later. One of the computers is all scuffed up down the side, and one of them's actually, it was the Mac Mini, like the most expensive thing in the bag. It looks perfect. Like it's like I think they're like aluminium like shells those things are made in. It's like perfect condition, no issues at all. So like I am a little concerned that like the hard drives might have got like a bit of a shake, but they've seemed fine 6 months later, no issues so far. So
I was just thinking that would be a funny weapon to put in Dead Pixels 2. Like if you could go up to storefronts and break the window and like lift old TV monitors and like old stereos and just throw them at the zombies or something.
I think I really wanted to like have like boom boxes that like draw the crowd. I think an early idea was the idea of like TV stores, like the TVs, like the static would like draw zombies' attentions, but it never really happened. I
suppose you're always moving in that game, so like you'll just turn on then run away, and then the zombies will just crowd and you'll not see them or something. Yeah,
I do quite like. I've got currently for weather, thunder and lightning. Whenever there's thunder and lightning, all the zombies kind of like the game will choose a random point on the street, and all the zombies that are unaware of people just wander there. Like the thunder and lightning's kind of like startled them, and they're just kind of heading in a herd kind of way to one single spot. And it can be really weird playing on a street with thunder and lightning, especially when you're like moving against the herd, because like you're just kind of like, why are there so many zombies all heading this way? Because like up until then they just normally wander about in whatever way they want, but like when you see them all heading your way, even though they're not aware of you, it feels very different. I actually had a friend play at one event I went to. It was quite a small event, and luckily I had friends there, so they just kind of like came and played the game repeatedly, which was nice because otherwise I would have been there on my own. And it was kind of nice as well. Like these were friends that like I only see like a few times a year, and like they're somewhat aware of what I do, and so it was kind of nice like getting to see them play and like seeing they enjoyed it. But they started doing like weird like melee only runs on the Dead Pixels 2 demo, and like they'd done like a minimum number of kills, like I can't remember what you call pacifist run. And like
speed run almost.
Yeah, they've done speed runs and melee only runs and a pacifist run as well. I think it was when they were doing their pacifist run, I kind of revealed that like destroying a car and then the car blowing up, that if that killed zombies, that wouldn't count as a kill. That would count as the car killing them, not the players. And so they were like leading the boss back through the game to like all the cars that they'd like missed earlier. And they were like leading the boss back, and they came across the street, and there was thunder and lightning, and just all the zombies were heading their way, and they're just like, what the hell's happening? And like I was a bit confused until I saw the thunder and lightning. I'm like, oh, It's the thunder and lightning. It's like kind of made them go into herd modes.
That's cool.
I don't think that was the time they passed their no pacifist run. I think it was like because there was so many zombies then that it failed. But they did actually manage to like do a run of the demo where like I think combined two of them got like I think 2 kills. I think it was 2 kills total, and like they were like tutorial zombies that they had to kill. They like found a way to like kill some of the tutorial zombies by like destroying a car. So it was, I don't know. It was really interesting.
That's cool. I didn't actually know that Dead Pixels 2 would have that. Like I really look for that in games. Like I love being able to avoid enemies instead of having to kill them all.
Yeah, I mean,
and I didn't actually realize that you could do that in Dead Pixels 2.
I want to try and like have options for like the original Dead Pixels had an item called Ooze that would make you invisible to zombies, and I'd like to do something similar, and maybe like doing it in the rain. It doesn't work as long. But like I do really like the idea of like trying to like avoid stuff. One of the things I'm forever like wanting to work on and don't get time is like crows, because I really liked in Resident Evil when you'd go into an area and there's just all these crows and you're just like, I can't shoot my gun here because they'll just scatter everywhere. And I really like the idea of like you go in a building and there's just crows everywhere and there's like one zombie and you're like, I'm gonna have to take this out quietly because if I don't, then like the crows are gonna be such a pest to like take out.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good idea because in Resident Evil 2 I remember there was parts where if you like failed a puzzle or something, then the crows would attack you and stuff, but they didn't really use that enough. I don't think actually that would have been a good dynamic to have.
There was like they were like just somewhat tense, but like there was rarely like another enemy.
Exactly. Yeah, they didn't take advantage of that. I don't think.
But the crows did feel like really tense. Like I think like the guy that got pecked to death, like going near him and there's just the crows everywhere. It's like. I've actually had a lot of trouble getting crow sounds, strangely, because whenever I like search the sound database I use, like I just find like rooster calls, and I'm like, no, that's no.
You're just gonna have to record some yourself.
Well, like I live quite near to a wood, and like in summer, like all you hear is crows. Yeah. And like I have considered like, I should have like recorded that, but I'm so used to the sound. Like friends will come round. And they'll just be like, oh, I don't know how you can stand the crows. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's crows. I just don't notice them after a while. You get so used to the sound of it. They would sometimes like go on the roof and start pecking off moss. And like they basically got to the point where like me opening and slamming closed a window, they just didn't care. They were like, we know you've done this enough times. You never seem to like come up onto the roof and get us. So we're just going to sit here pecking at moss.
I was thinking like a lot of people are going to be listening to this. Well, not I don't know how many people are going to, but the people who listen to it are probably going to want to know about sort of how you started to make games and stuff like that. So I was wondering, was there ever a point in your life that you can think of that you just decided, okay, I love to play games, but now I want to make them? Or what was that sort of transition like for you? Or was it a gradual thing, or was it like more or less instantly when you started playing games? Or
I think there was a lot of failed starts for me. Of like, there were points where I was like really interested in making games, and then like I'd kind of get really into it for like a month or so, and then just like kind of burn out and not get anywhere. So there was a point where I worked in a hardware store for a while, for a few months, and I did start thinking at some point about like I kind of realized that as much as like that was fun and it was nice having money, like I kind of realized like my love was more with like technology than with like hardware stuff, and like I didn't necessarily like hate being in a store, but there was like there was a couple of points where like I got enough money to build a new computer, and so it's like, okay, this, I'm planning a computer and like I get to build it, and I'm just like, no, this is what this is what I really enjoy. And I did start thinking about like making a game, and like I was really into retro gaming at the time, so like I kind of really wanted to make a Dreamcast game, which I think the Dreamcast scene's like kind of died off a bit now, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I think so.
There was a point where like there was a lot of people putting out newer games on the Dreamcast, and so like it seemed like a really good point. There is still a few about, but like it seems a lot of them are kind of like now, well, Steam's open to us. We could just make games for Steam instead of like making a game for the Dreamcast. I can't remember what their name is. There is like some guys making a JRPG for like everything, including Dreamcast, because that's where they started.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of modders like make games for Dreamcast, but usually it's just they'll take an existing game and then just like mod it to the point where it's almost unrecognizable. But yeah, the odd time there is like new games coming out for old hardware, which is really interesting actually, which I will come back to later on. But so how did you actually sort of almost, did you just teach yourself how to do it, or what did you start to learn? Or
So I initially, when like I lost that job in the hardware store, I did try to start teaching myself C++. With I kind of like heard like, oh yeah, that's how to get games on the Dreamcast. You learn C++ and then like use these frameworks and stuff. And I kind of gave up on that. And then I think at some point I tried XNA. And the only reason I know this is because it was installed on my PC when I did actually get into using XNA. Like maybe a year later, like I'd read an article on Kotaku about making massager apps. Now someone made a lot of money making massager app for the Xbox 360, and I was just kind of like, I want a lot of money. I can do
who
that.
doesn't?
And so like I started. I downloaded XNA stuff and realized it was already installed, so I must have done it at some earlier point.
Yeah,
I have no memory of it, and I kind of started getting into like making games, and kind of I didn't make a massager app. I did have an idea for making a game where you like make control pads vibrate and then race them. And I've since heard that someone made something similar where it's like sumo wrestling with vibrating control pads. So I'm a bit annoyed that like someone else actually managed to do like that kind of idea.
I think you should have patented that. You should put like a copyright on that.
Yeah,
you
maybe
could have sued them.
Yeah, but I eventually did like get into making like that game, and then like Dead Pixels was I think like the 7th game I made for that platform.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them didn't get released, some of them like didn't get finished. And like some of them also got like finished but not released, and then there was like 6 games that were of varying qualities. But like I like to think, even if you look back at the first game I ever made, like there's certain signs of like, I don't know, maybe
what's
not
to come.
Yeah, just kind of certain kind of like ideas I had for like what makes a good game then, and even if it didn't completely like work out, like that's things that I carried on with when doing like newer stuff and doing like even Dead Pixels 2 now.
Would there be any way of anyone like playing those older games, or probably not?
I removed some of them from the Xbox Live Indie service when Dead Pixels came out. You can still play a game I made called Super Tank Run. That's still on XBlig, but the 2 games I released before that, they're not on there. And I think I tried to like make them run, and like the issue is that like they were made on a PC, and that's since been formatted multiple times, and they expect sound files to be in the correct location.
Right.
And like I still have all the sounds, but like
it's just
I think my original game didn't even have music because I didn't know where I would get music. So
royalty free music.
Yeah, so like I don't think there's much chance in playing some of the older ones.
It's annoying because I wanted to play Paperboy on the Xbox 360 because I've been playing Commodore 64 lately, and they've removed the ability, like the game kind of exists but only if you previously purchased it. So I think Xbox and that's not even like an indie game, it's like a Xbox Live Arcade game. So like I'm thinking Microsoft will probably slowly just start pulling stuff off their marketplace, if not completely shut it down.
With that, there are some like XBLA games where the issue is that like it's something like Paperboy, where some companies got the rights to the older game, and like they only had that for so long.
Oh, okay.
And so like now they don't have the rights, and in the days of like physical games, they just stopped making it, and you wouldn't even. They probably would stop making it much earlier. But like with digital, like it's much more noticeable when they stop like having a game available. There's a few games like on the original Xbox download service that are like gone now. I want to say the original Doom was taken off, but it might have came back.
Mm-hmm.
And the Scott Pilgrim games are one of the ones that's like kind of sad to see that's entirely gone now. So if you don't own it, you can't get it. And it's just one of those things of like they maybe only had the license for the film for so long or the comic for so long, and they were just like, well, we're not making enough money to renew this. So
I do worry about that because like in say however long it takes, 10 years time, when Microsoft decide right, let's pull the plug on the Xbox 360 altogether, like if like something happens to my Xbox, I'll not be able to download Dead Pixels 1 onto my Xbox and play it, and that kind of
I think we're now at the point where XBLIG you can't submit new games can't be added, and a year from now you won't be able to buy new games on XBLIG. So it's kind of a shame.
It's a big shame.
So yeah, it's kind of only people that had it will be able to like play it. I mean, at least there's still with Dead Pixels, there's the PC version, which will be there as long as Steam's still around. And like, I mean, I'm always kind of happy to just have it on stuff like it's also on Humble, which do a DRM free copy. So like, even if Steam goes, if you have the Humble version, like, and you download it and keep a copy, or I think
it's just nice to preserve games. That's why I feel I hate the idea of games being lost to us.
Yeah, it's kind of why for a very long time I didn't like the idea of like downloadable games. I wanted like a physical copy.
But you know what really annoys me? Even now with physical copies, what ends up happening is you put the disc in and it does a download anyway. So it's like it doesn't even feel like a real physical copy anymore for some games.
Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to like try some of those games as well, where it's like without that day one download.
Exactly.
They're going to be very different experiences.
But my worry is that like I've got some PS3 and Xbox 360 games that don't work unless you download certain little files and stuff. And like if Microsoft or Sony pull the plug and you go to put what you think you have as a physical disc with everything there, you could potentially put that into a console and it doesn't let you play it because you do have to do some silly day one update or something like that.
Yeah, I think most of them will play, but just like possibly be broken in some way, or just like missing features. Or I think the Tony Hawk's game was like an example of like one that was like severely broken. The disc is just Tony Hawk's 5. the disc's like useless. It downloads the main game once the whole game in. I think it just silly, really. I mean, I guess it's like it's the way things are going, and it kind of represents the fact that like those discs have to be made like 2 months before like the game's actually out. So like it could often be like, okay, this game's out in 2 months, but we need to make the discs now. So it's either like we put off releasing it until it is actually done and then release it 2 months from then, or just kind of like
people
hope
get
it's finished.
So like people, I think it was like No Man's Sky was coming out or something that was delayed for a few days, and people were just like kicking up such a stink. And I'm like, would you not rather they released a game that was fixed and working and all the rest of it, and like just wait a couple of days? It's not that big a deal. Yeah,
I had this conversation with a friend because like occasionally I'll get messages that are just like, oh, why don't you just finish Dead Pixels 2? And it's like, well, like this is Dead Pixels 2. It's going to be out when it's out. Like like I don't think. In my head, like, it's like this is the only way Dead Pixels 2 will be made. Yeah, like
I totally agree with that.
It's not. I don't know. It's hard to kind of like put into words, but like if I just like release what there is just now, that's not what they're wanting. They want like the game that I have put a lot of time and effort into. So like they have to wait for it. And like I was telling a friend about this, and I was saying about like No Man's Sky, like. There was a journalist found out the game was going to be delayed, and he wrote about it online, and he got death threats from people that were upset because he revealed their game was going to be delayed. Like he didn't delay it himself. Like, he just reported that it was going to be delayed, and like people were angry and accusing him of like trying to like bring the fans down and upset them. And it's just like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy, like how much people get into like gaming.
Well, I suppose the way to look at it is like, if if you delay Dead Pixels 2, you'll upset like 10% of crybabies that just can't like wait for, I don't know, a couple, however long it takes. Whereas if you, like, 80% of the people will be pissed off because the game's just not finished to your standard, or it's not where you want it. So
I don't. It's weird, like, having to interact with people at times. So, what I would like to know is, because people that'll be listening to this want to know what it's like to make games for themselves. What is most of your time spent doing? And like on a typical day, what do you find most of your time actually doing in like the creative process? I don't know. Like for me, like a lot of my days can just like vary, wildly from like, I can spend a day doing art, and like sometimes I'm doing art and I'm actually just thinking about like game design. And like by doing an image, like in my head, like I've worked out how this is going to play.
Yeah.
And then like some days are like spent like just awful of like I need to do something, but like I have absolutely no motivation for that. And it's just like I get very little done, or like I don't know where to begin on like some much bigger task.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because people, I'm sure from the outside that have no real knowledge about making games, probably think it's just like the most fun thing to do in the world, and it's like playing games. But I'm sure the reality is like very different, and is it probably like a lot more math based and like kind of, when it comes to coding and stuff like that?
I think it's a lot more just kind of like problem solving and just thinking like I want the game to do this, like how do I get there? Like that's the part I kind of enjoy. I like problem solving, and so like it's often just like, okay, I have this information in the game, I need this out.
Mm-hmm.
What's that middle step? Or I need to design something that'll do this. Like what's the middle step there? And so just kind of working on that.
I mean, I think that's the interesting thing about it, is because there's no book on how to create Dead Pixels 2. Like, like there's probably so much you can do from learning about other stuff, but the game is in your head, so to speak. So
it's a very weird process as well, like with Dead Pixels 2, because Dead Pixels 1, it was just kind of like I started with an idea, and like that changed over time, and things were added, and like things were removed, and like ideas just didn't work, or like it was like a very different thing where I didn't quite know what the end was.
Yeah.
And like Dead Pixels 2, I've kind of known what the end would be, and so it's just kind of like it's kind of like that process of like, okay, recreating this stuff, but like doing it differently. And
yeah. Like, it's almost like a remake of Dead Pixels 1, would you say then?
In some ways, yeah. Like I think I've often kind of said that like I want it to be the Evil Dead 2 of like compared to Evil Dead 1 of Dead Pixels, where like you don't need Evil Dead 1 anymore. Right. Evil Dead 2 like has it has like everything kind of repeated and more, and so like I think my hope is that like Dead Pixels 2 will be the same way of just like, no, you want to play I mean, maybe you want to go back and play Dead Pixels 1, but like my hope would be that like it would just replace it, it would just kind of eclipse it, and just do everything it does plus more, so you don't need to go back and play that older game. And so that there's been a lot of kind of thought into like, okay, so Dead Pixels had this, so Dead Pixels 2 needs this as well, and Dead Pixels has this kind of way of playing, so Dead Pixels 2 needs something similar. So like I'm currently working on a wave-based mode because Dead Pixels 1 had that, and so like people seem to like that, and so it's like, and trying to do it a bit differently as well, but then thinking like, oh, should I add in like the way the original was as well?
Yeah.
I don't know, just trying to kind of like, I don't know, let people like do whatever they liked in Dead Pixels 2, but giving them more as well.
Yeah, I do think that's the way to go, because you will find that there may only be 10% of people who like really like this particular thing about Dead Pixels 1, and if you don't have that, someone probably will complain, and once someone points out, then more people might notice and be like, oh, why didn't you add that?
I mean, you also get like I had a friend who really liked Borderlands, but really disliked Borderlands 2. And like it was mostly just because like things that he felt that Borderlands 2 took things out, And I was kind of like, well, it just gave you other options instead. Like it's different characters in Borderlands 2, so you have different classes. And like in his opinion, no, it should have the exact same classes from the first game and then more, because he didn't want to play as like these new characters. He wanted to play as the same character. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So like I think sometimes you do need to kind of like move away and leave those like older things behind and do a new game. But sometimes it's good to like carry things over as well. I guess it's picking and choosing which ones you take back and which ones you abandon.
Did you find the online mode? Have you been coding a lot of it for Dead Pixels 2, like, or have you been able to use a lot of what was in Dead Pixels 1 in terms of just like the framework of getting it to actually work more than anything?
I mean, online, Dead Pixels 1 didn't have online, so it's the biggest change. Like, online? No,
it didn't have a co-op.
It had local co-op, so it was just
it was local.
two
That's
pads.
Right. I was wondering why.
And so like online is like this horrible thing. It is the thing. It's the thing I should be working on just now.
Oh yeah,
and it's the thing I absolutely just hate working on.
I'm sure,
and I can't even work out why I hate it. I think it's just because it's just there's so much to do, that it just feels overwhelming. But like that's part of the reason I'm doing the wave-based survival mode, because I've kind of like, we'll see how it goes. But like I think my hope was to get like the online working with the wave-based mode, and then once that's like done and like tested and working, I can move out to the main campaign, because like once I've got like a small area with like a few small amounts of rooms, it's like if that works fine, then like okay, now we can tackle like a street and making sure that still works. Just now like the online's like wonderfully broken in that like the game just like forces it into working even though like there is clear mistakes. And so there was an interesting thing that like 2 different copies of the game would actually spawn zombies differently, but then like the online code would try and match them up. And so even if like one game spawned like a runner zombie and one spawned a normal, like it would put them in the same place and make them move at the same place. Although one would be moving faster and probably get like jittered back, because it was like trying to match them up. So that was kind of interesting, that like watching the game like clearly getting it wrong, but like not crashing, just like forcing it to work. Which was kind of interesting. But I think like online, a lot of it's just kind of like making it presentable as well. Like, so currently like zombies jitter about for whoever's not hosting the game. The hosts still see things fine, but like for everyone else, like the zombies jitter around and they don't animate, and it's just like making sure they animate correctly based on what they're currently doing, and also just making sure stuff like currently like there's a bit of estimation with online as to like, okay, I know where this player was like a quarter of a second ago, but like where are they now? And so kind of trying to estimate that. And so sometimes you get into issues where it's just like, okay, like the game will kind of like make a player like run ahead and then like turn around and walk back a step because they've actually gone too far, and so like it's just kind of smoothing a lot of stuff like that out. I think I remember reading a thing about like Left 4 Dead, and they were just like, it doesn't have to be identical for all players as long as all players see something that looks correct. So as long as like if we were both playing, as long as your guy isn't just like running into a wall and like meleeing it, and is like at least like fighting another zombie or a few zombies, that's fine. It's just getting it so that it looks right for both players rather than like it's identical for both players.
Yeah, that's really interesting actually to think about that, because up until now I pretty much always just thought that what I was seeing my friend do online was what was happening, but that's crazy to think that it could potentially be, if it's slightly different.
It will just be slightly different because you're just trying to simulate what the other players are doing. You're not trying to like know, because like you'll have like a tiny fraction of a second difference, like sending the data across, and like you also can't send too much, and so like And so there's been a lot of like work I've had to do into like, how can I compress this data down as much as possible? And it's like, okay, well, I could probably like round these numbers down to like the nearest 10. And like if the zombie's a slightly different position, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Because like the guns, they've got a bit of a wide range on them. It's the chances of like a player being aware that like that zombie should be in range and they're not, and so there's a bit of it's going to be interesting.
That's the reason I asked you, because I can only imagine that the online part of it is almost like creating a whole new game in itself, really. So I thought that would be quite challenging.
There's a lot of like as times went on, just me planning ahead and just being like, okay, like I know that this is going to be online. I know that like there was certain things that I have a trader in the game that will randomly upgrade weapons, upgrade their stats, and give effects and stuff. And like working out where that like new gun should be stored actually caused a bit of an issue, because initially I thought like, okay, like the data for this will be stored in the player. And then I kind of realized like, no, that's awful, because when it gets to online, like all players need to be aware of this gun and what it can do and what it looks like, and what if one player like puts it on the floor and another player picks it up. And so it's like, this can't be stored in the player, this has to be stored in a more central location, because it could switch between players. So I had to like gut out a system. And so there's a whole load of old code that's like working based off that old assumption. That's just kind of like, it's still there. At some point I'll probably go through
find
and
it
like,
and delete
remove
it or something.
But it's a bit annoying that like
That's
I went to
like
all this work like where this data will be stored, and I eventually realized like no, like I have like a class in the code called stats, and that stores like data on everything, like zombies information, gun information, random like street items, cars, all kinds of stuff. And so it's just like, no, it belongs there. And then like the online will just try and sync the customized guns, so all players have like a record of the same like customized weapons. And I think I've also like got some codes to dispose of them. If it's like, okay, someone like customized this assault rifle and then sat it on the floor, and now you're like 3 streets away, chances are no one is going back for that to pick it up. And like that data doesn't need to be like stored on everyone's computer anymore. So it's just kind of, I don't know, it's interesting, and it's also trying to make sure I don't try and reinvent the wheel and like just read up what other people have been doing and how they did it.
I don't know if you watched, there was an indie movie about the guys that made Meat Boy on Netflix, but they've made a video about it, but then they also went back and did like maybe like a year's time and did another video.
It's Indie Game the Movie.
Yeah,
but I don't know, an extra
like a follow-up
version.
Yeah, but there was this part where they were chatting to the guys behind Meat Boy, and he was saying about how the online mode on Meat Boy had like a user maps and stuff, and like this is just something they did out of like their free time. They're just like, well, let's just put it up there and all. But then it turned out that some guy contacted them and like just like, oh, like I could take this down if I wanted to and stuff. And it's like, it'll be alright, it'll be fine.
It was what happened was, I believe, like some guy found like a fatal bug in it, and like he emailed Tommy from Team Meat about it, and Tommy was on holiday for Christmas, and it was just like, yeah, no, sure, that's fine. I'll fix that at some point.
I'll fix it when I get to it.
And the guy was just like, no, it needs to be fixed now. And like he broke it to prove it needs to be fixed. Like, and so Tommy was just like, well, I'll just take this down.
I know. But that's what worries me whenever someone like you that is working on something online, like that worries me that something like that could potentially happen. Does that come into your head at all?
I don't know. When it comes to working on the online in Dead Pixels, like maybe I'm doing this wrong, but like I'm making the game about like the online for you're playing with people not just strangers.
Yeah,
so because of that, like if you want to hack your game, go ahead. Your friends will think you're a dick.
Yeah, they'll just leave.
But like if you want to mess around, fine. Like.
I get it, yeah.
And so like I don't need to worry quite the same.
Yeah, it's not the competitive game that Super Meat Boy is.
It's also not competitive, so it's hopefully it'll less of a target. Although I did have I had people hack the scoreboards in the original Dead Pixels.
Yeah, why do people do that? It's so sad.
And so like I'd been saying before this podcast, a friend of mine that I was at school with who really likes Dead Pixels, like he was actually really good, and like he messaged me on Facebook at one point, and he was just kind of like, yeah, like half the scores in the top 10 are all like 10 million waves survived, and so I was like, okay, I'll just delete the obvious ones in like the top 100, so that like he had like a more realistic idea of where he belonged. But like, yeah, it's kind of annoying, that stuff. With Dead Pixels 2, I'm currently thinking the wave-based survival mode. I think the way it's currently going to be is it's just going to be like daily scores, so that like if someone does hack it, it's like, congratulations, you're doing scores for a day.
Yeah,
like
for
24 hours later, we're back to normal. And like I maybe take a note of your name and add you to a list, so that you never. Yeah, the list of like people that just never get their scores on the top 10.
That's nice. That's nice that you can do that, because I actually can't think of a game recently to come out that within the first few days the leaderboards haven't been hacked. Like every game I can think of, like I've checked leaderboards and like, oh, it's like pointless to even try and get on that because they're so badly hacked.
Yeah, it's a shame. I really liked Pac-Man CEDX, and like I think there was a point where like I checked like the top scores, and like you can actually like watch the replay of people playing, and like when you watched any of the replays in the top 10, like Pac-Man just sat there for 5 minutes and done nothing. And it was just like they didn't even try.
Yeah. It's really frustrating, especially whenever you get good at a game, because there's just some silly games like Xbox Live ones. I was like Worms 2 or something, I was like on the top of the leaderboards for it for the first day it came out, and then Battlefield 1943, I was the top for like the first day, and within like a week the whole thing had just been hacked. And it's like, it's kind of off, but it puts you off playing the game like to that level, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
it's a shame, but it's kind of
at least you have access to it. So
Steam, there is like a back end for like deleting scores, which is okay, but it's kind of like, how often, like at this point, like how often am I going to log into Dead Pixels and like delete scores? So it's just kind of like, I don't know, I'll maybe do it tonight just because it's been brought up. Just like there's also like one of the things Steam does is it'll actually like log stats, and it'll log like total stats as well. And so I can actually view the total number of zombies killed in the original Dead Pixels for like every one.
You should try and like put a counter like in the game somewhere, like, you know, down the bottom corner, this many zombies killed in the last like so many months.
I do feel like if I'd done that, someone would just try and break it. It's better that it's just kind of like semi-hidden away and just.
I remember Dark Souls 2 had this like monument at the very start where you could go up and like it tells you how many people have died since the game came out. I don't know how intact that ever stayed, but it was really, really high just within the first few weeks. Like, in the millions.
One of the stats I did have tracked was like number of people that start a new game, number of people that die, and like also like number of people that like finish. So I could like try and work out like, okay, how many people just like gave up and didn't even die, just gave up and never played anymore.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Am I getting mixed up? But did the original Dead Pixels have like a? If you got so many, if it got so many seals, there was something unlocked, or was it if you got so many kills, like zombie kills, something?
So initially, when I released it, there was a thing of if I got, I think it was 1,000 sales, I'd add another mode, and if I got like 3,000 sales, I'd add another mode, and like it was like first week, both those, it was more than 3,000 sales, so it was just like, and so it was like it was
really busy.
It's like 4 months before like I got those modes, and like I was just so stressed. Like I think back to
you have to have a higher milestone next time.
Yeah, I can't remember what the hell. I recently was thinking of something of just like, yeah, I should just like hire someone and just to like just to be there when Dead Pixels 2 comes out, so I can just like leave a computer for 24 hours and not be like stressed.
I know.
And
I'm sure launch will be a stressful time.
yeah, it's kind of like there was another developer I was talking to at an event. Like they launched their game during an event.
Oh, that's
and
crazy.
like, yeah, like, but I think they didn't really expect much of it, because like I was talking to them that night and they were just like, yeah, we've not even checked sales numbers. And I'm just like, what? Like, when I release a game, it's just like hitting like refresh,
yeah.
So like I think that like potentially they'd done early access and then they were launching fully, and I think they were kind of like, you kind of, that's the bad thing about early access. If your game doesn't do well in early access, it's not going to do well on full release.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they were possibly at a place where they just kind of like sort of knew what was going to happen, and so maybe we're just kind of like, yeah, let's just finish this and get it out, rather than like, the excitement of like a new launch. Early access is interesting. I was much more interested in doing it. I saw a game that was similar to Dead Pixels in some ways, and it done really good early access, and I got to meet the developer, or someone that works at the company anyway, at EGX, and it turned out like, no, that game done really well in China because it was Chinese developers.
Oh, right.
Everywhere else it didn't do particularly well, so like that's kind of like killed my like interest in like early access a bit, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, I do pre-orders and you get like a beta code, but like, I don't know, Steam early access could go horribly wrong, or it could do really well.
I've just a couple of questions about, so what kind of when you're playing games, what's your sort of playing games to work and ratio for you? Like, how do you reach a balance?
I am really bad about like finding time to play games. I think
it's kind of ironic. I thought that might be the case.
I'm just kind of curious. If I look at my Steam profile, what does it even say?
Do you find whenever you are playing games, do you find that you actually go out of your way to play games as more like research, giving you tips to like in making games, or just to see what other indie devs are doing or anything like that?
Initially, when I made Dead Pixels, like I stayed away from all zombie games because I didn't want to like accidentally like go, that was really good, and just steal it. I'm a bit more kind of open to like trying stuff now that like is similar. I've just had a look at like my Steam. Actually, is that? Yeah, like I think I think Dead Pixels 2 is my most played game. I was like, I've played 14 hours of games in the past 2 weeks. Yeah, it's like 12 of them are Dead Pixels 2.
Yeah. So that's the I was going to ask you, do you feel guilty about like if you like sit and play a game for like more than a couple hours, you think, I really should have been doing some work?
Yeah, like that's the reason I don't like accept random like Steam friend requests, because I'm just like, no, you're gonna make me feel guilty.
Yeah.
And like I had someone like message me on Xbox Live once saying like, stop playing other games, and I was just kind of like, well, I'm unfriending you. But like, yeah, it's kind of hard for me to like find time to play games, and like I'll be left feeling really guilty about it. And it's silly when I actually like look at my time spent. I've been feeling really bad like the past few days. Maybe just kind of like the beginnings of me getting a bit of a cold has just been like a lot of time in bed, and like I kind of think about it, it's like no, that's like a weekend for most people. Like, so what if I like didn't do much for a couple of days? Like that's just the weekend for most people.
Exactly.
I do try and like take a day off now, but once a week, but I still like do a little work then, like on trains when I'm traveling around. So like, yeah, it's I think I work every day. So
you're probably a bit harder on yourself because like that you feel like you could do some more, but there, I'm this. The funny thing is like I should be a game reviewer. I should be playing lots of games, but I do feel guilty whenever I play games. I'm like, I should be working on videos and stuff, but like it's, you know, you shouldn't really feel guilty for playing games, but yeah, it's a strange dynamic.
I think it's just kind of that maybe it's just like having people like watching me to an extent like is more likely to make me feel a bit guilty. Like I feel bad if I tweet about like playing games.
I know, it's weird.
Or, like,
I get the same thing.
And it just kind of I don't know. I kind of feel like there have been points where I have actually thought about just like refunding everyone that's pre-ordered Dead Pixels 2 just
don't
out
do
of
that.
like no, I don't want your money making me feel guilty. I'm just gonna like do whatever I want. But I also like I want this game finished. Like I think people like think that I'm, I don't know, enjoying stretching out development.
No,
it's like no, I'm not at all.
I think the people that think that way probably just don't worry about those people. I think. I mean, I find it really interesting. I've been like recently. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been watching Westworld. There was a conversation about like boring, like feeling bored and stuff, and like it kind of made me realize like, I never really feel bored because I've always got something to do. Yeah. And it's like the only time I'm bored is if I'm like stuck at a train station and like there's no one I can phone. I've not got my laptop or like a notebook or anything to just like get on with work. I'm literally just like stuck there with nothing. Like I'm never bored when I'm at home because I'm always just like, well, I can always do this. And like even if I don't want to work, like I have stockpiles of films and games, books and all kinds of things. I actually had a friend recently like abandon a book in my house, and like I kind of said to him, "Oh, you left this book," and he's like, "Oh no, I left that for you to read." And I'm like, "I've not got time to read this book. Like, I have a pile of books that I have bought myself to read." It's like. But when you do get that spare time though, would you find that it's like a mixture of retro and new games, or what kind of balance do you play there?
I think it's mostly been new games recently. Like a lot of my gaming actually happens when friends are around because I can feel a little less guilty if we're playing like some co-op games. So like I think a lot of my gaming now is just like anything that's like 2 to like 4 player games that I can just like give a go. I've not done too much retro gaming. The only retro console I leave hooked up all the time is the Sega Saturn.
Oh, nice.
And I did have that hooked up, and I was playing. I had a friend around and we were playing the board game version of a game called Space Hulk, and I was like, I've got Space Hulk for the Sega Saturn. Let's load that up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
it's really hard.
Like,
it's like a first-person shooter, and it's like I haven't made it out of the first few hallways in that game. It's just deadly.
It's a really interesting game because it is a mix of the board game and like a first-person shooter, and you can view the game in first person.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah.
Like, just order the guys, and like the second you press a button, like you'll take direct control of them.
Yeah.
But like they will auto shoot and like move and stuff without you. And so like it's a really interesting game.
If you play it as a first person shooter, you need like lightning fast responses. Like you need to spin around really quickly and shoot.
I think the thing is, it also kind of does the dice rolls in the background. So like no matter how fast you like press shoot, like it's rolling dice in the background and going like, no, you didn't kill it, no, you didn't do this, and it's, I don't know, it's really interesting like what they came up with.
The odd time you get like caught, but there's this like percentage chance of getting like your, I don't know, chainsaw or whatever it is like you use to kind of melee them. So I guess that's a dice roll thing.
I'm pretty sure it is just purely a dice roll, and that's why like sometimes you can like kill like 8 in a row and be fine, and then sometimes like you lose your entire squad from like one chainsaw. So it was kind of cool as well, just kind of like looking at like a 90s like Warhammer game, because like the aesthetics like changed so much in like 20 years. It like seems very goofy now looking back at that game.
It's interesting you bring up Space Hulk actually, because last time we talked, you mentioned that you'd like to make, like if you had the opportunity, you'd like to make a not a Warhammer. I think you said Necromancer, like a
Necromunda.
Necromunda, that Game Workshop game, but
Yeah. Interestingly, there are rumors now that they are bringing the board game of the tabletop game of Necromunda back.
yeah.
So like that's kind of interesting.
Because this is what I've been hearing. Then and then also like Space Hulk, Deathwing's coming out. And there's just like so many kind of. I think there's like 3 games coming out in the Space Hulk world, or else it's maybe just the Warhammer world. But Deathwing,
there's a lot of Warhammer games in development just now.
Deathwing looks really good. It's like a 4-player co-op.
I've been very impressed with like how Deathwing's like looked, because like I originally like lumped it in with some of the worst Warhammer games, but it's looking to be like it's possibly going to be one of the better ones. I think maybe Games Workshop's learned their lesson about like just like letting their licenses go everywhere. They've recently separated with another company used to do board games using the Warhammer license, and they've now like ended that. And I think it's because Games Workshop's like getting much more involved in doing like different kinds of games, and they're bringing back a lot of their older 90s properties, which is kind of nice. So they're bringing back Blood Bowl, which is American football.
Yeah.
And so like they're actually releasing a new board game version of that, because the video games have been really popular, and so that's really cool. And it's kind of annoying because I don't have the time to be making models, and I've got so many sitting around already.
Yeah, my friend actually also bought the Space Hulk original board game and stuff, and he's trying to keep it in good condition. But like, I definitely need to have a night where we just play it at some point as well. But
I played it for the first time like maybe a month ago, and I'd had it for like 2 years, and it was just kind of like a friend was round, and it was just kind of like, you know what, do you want to play Space Hulk? Because it was a 2-player game, and like one of my other friends I'll normally play like co-op video games with, and there was no co-op video games left, so I was just like, let's play a board game, let's play Space Hulk.
Yeah, well, once that Deathwing, it looks like pretty much Left 4 Dead in the Space Hulk world or something, so that'll be a really good co-op once it
it looked really interesting, just kind of like the range of like enemies and like damage and stuff. Like I think you can damage your arm and then you like can't use your gun, and you know,
it's like
I really like the locational damage, because like Deus Ex done it, and I don't know, you don't see it very often now.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily look at it and say like, oh, this doesn't look like what the board game is and stuff, but I like how it's like really slow paced. Left 4 Dead is like really this fast paced moving game, but Space Hulk, you've got like real slow moving stuff, and that I think it will be I think a tactical game, even though it's like a fast paced shooter as well.
Yeah, playing the board game's like really stressful as well, because like the Space Marines, they move so slow.
Yeah.
They get I can't remember how many actions they get per turn. I think they get like 3 actions, and the Gene Stealers get 6.
I know.
And like not only that, but the Space Marine player's on a timer, and so like they've got to like plan what they're doing, and it was really cool like watching my friend just being like, okay, like, you know, planning out what he's going to do, and then like flipping the timer and him trying to do it all, and like you get extra actions you can spend, and so like when things don't work, he's just kind of like, okay, do I keep putting these extra actions into this until it succeeds, or do I like, you know, go and try something else, or like it was really interesting. I'm looking forward to playing more of it.
So I noticed I was looking on your Twitter, and you posted up, you actually tagged me in it, that you had bought a copy of 1408. Did you ever get around to actually watching that?
Yeah, I think
nice.
I tweeted that out like 5 minutes before I actually like sat down, and yeah, like I think I when you'd like emailed me saying like, yeah, let's do this again, I'm like, oh crap, I've not watched that film. It's been on my Amazon wishlist, and like I currently have Amazon Prime because I wanted to get something next day, and I realized a month for Prime was the same as next day delivery. Yeah. So it's just like, I'll just get Prime for a month. So I think it's like £2, and I got it the next day. Yeah. And then like watched it. I thought it was an interesting film. I think like I'm one of these people that's like, I don't just like want the haunted room story. I want to know why the room's haunted.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't give you that.
No, it doesn't.
And that like drove me a little crazy. I did quite like, I think like I really enjoyed like maybe the first half or the first like hour. Like I quite liked the background of the room, and just kind of like the like Samuel L. Jackson kind of warning him about
Yeah.
like, you don't want to go in there. Like, we clean the room like once a month, and like once a woman got locked in the bathroom, and I think she clawed her eyes out. And, I quite liked all that.
I think I definitely enjoy the build up a lot. Like I can watch the build up to it. I do get bored after like probably the first like 30 minutes. Like, you've almost seen everything after that. Like, but I don't know. I mean, how did you think? Did you think it was a scary film or not? I mean, maybe you have to be in the right mood to be scared.
I think I'd have to be like in the right mood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if I get like scared from films anymore. I tend to get uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Is the thing I get. Like when I feel something about a film,
Mm-hmm.
and like even then it's just like specific things. So it didn't make me feel like uncomfortable.
Right.
I'm not sure like the last film that actually made me like actually scared.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Evil Dead 2, the first time I saw that, like I thought it was a lot scarier than I do like watching it now, and I'm like, no, this is kind of horror comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was the second one. I actually did watch Kung Fury as well. It was on it came on to Netflix actually, so that was a really good way of watching it, because I know you sent me a link like right after the podcast, and I watched like about 10 minutes of it, and I was like, I was liking what I was seeing, but I kind of don't like watching stuff on YouTube, like when it comes to like proper films and stuff like that. So I was like, I'll wait for it, like maybe get it on DVD or something. But then it came onto Netflix, and actually both me and my wife watched it, and we both really liked it. But it was one of those things like, okay, there's a Triceratops cop now. It's like, why not?
I can't remember if it was out last year when we spoke last. It could have been. It's kind of hard remembering exactly what a year ago.
I know.
But there's a film called Turbo Kid, which is similar in some ways. But
yes. It's on Netflix too, actually.
Yeah, I really recommend that film.
Okay.
Because I'd say that, like, while Kung Fury is kind of like a lot of 80s mashed together, like Turbo Kid is like trying to be an 80s film.
Okay.
And it does it really well. And so it's not just like lots of different 80s things kind of mashed together. It's much more trying to be a film that maybe could have came out in the 80s, but like a little bit kind of laughing at that.
Uh-huh.
And so like, I mean, like, one of the box quotes is Mad Max on a BMX.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, so it's kind of, like, set in, like, a world where, like, petrol's all gone. And instead of just, like, them driving cars still, like, everyone rides bicycles. And I just quite like that.
I think you actually mentioned this to me, because I seen it pop up, and I was like, oh, yeah, I think maybe John's talked about it last time, so...
Yeah, I can't remember exactly when it came out. I just know it was around this time.
I'm not sure if it was. Maybe it hadn't actually came out, but you only had just known about it because it was like.
It's possible I'd bought it and it was like sitting in a pile, like waiting to be watched.
I think that was probably it. So no, I'm gonna. I think I've actually added that to my list, and I was like, I'm gonna have to watch that as well, because that sounds a lot like Stranger Things on Netflix is pretty much like a thing that could have been made in the 80s. Certainly, they've made it feel like it has been made in the 80s.
I am so like weird. I'm so weirdly disappointed that like Stranger Things hasn't grabbed me the way everyone else seems to love it. Like, I love the style, and it's just like, I don't know. I think what's going to happen is there's supposed to be a second season. Yeah. For better or worse. And I think I'll rewatch it in a year. Like maybe dedicate more time to it.
I think it could be like the for me the like Big Bang. Like, people think like, oh, you like games and science, you should like Big Bang, but actually Big Bang to me just feels like Friends or something. It's just not really, like, there might be the odd reference here and there to something like video game related or something, but it's actually, I don't find it that funny or really enjoyable to watch. It's something that people who aren't really into sort of movies and games and stuff can get into Big Bang, but like for hardcore fans,
it's kind of like my sister really loves Big Bang Theory, and like has named her Fish Sheldon, and it's like I just don't care for the show at all. It maybe feels a little bit like the TV show IT Crowd. Like, I know a lot of people really love that, but when I watched it initially, I was just like, they're making fun of me. And I just kind of felt like I identify more with the people being made fun of. I didn't feel like I was laughing with them. I felt like I was being laughed at. And I felt a little bit bad about that, because like I can't remember the guy's name. I always forget his name.
Moss or
No, the guy that created the show, because he also created like Father Ted and Black Books.
Oh yes,
and like a bunch of other things I really like, and so like I feel bad that I don't like it. And I kind of felt similar with Big Bang Theory, that like it didn't feel like it was maybe for me. It was making fun of things I liked more than.
Maybe that's why you don't like Stranger Things. Maybe it's like almost, I don't know, like it's cashing in on the retro wave that everyone's riding at the minute, or.
Maybe. I kind of think I'm willing to. There are some shows that I have not particularly liked, and then given it a year and rewatched. The TV show Fringe was one of those ones. I think I watched the first season, didn't grab me, and I'd read some things about the second season, and I thought, you know what, I'll rewatch the first season, and then like give the second season a go, and it ended up being like one of my favorite shows of the past 10 years. So like I guess it just depends, like what mood you're in, and like with Netflix you might just kind of like jump in and watch the whole thing when you're not in the mood for it.
Yeah, that's yeah. Well, I actually probably the one thing I liked the most about Stranger Things was actually the soundtrack more than anything, and the art style. I
absolutely love the opening, like the way the opening looks and sounds.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part was the opening. And like how good the music and stuff was, and the art and stuff. But
yeah, I mean, I totally did feel just like, oh no, this does like so much right, and it's just like it just weirdly doesn't grab me, and just constantly reminded me of what is it, Beyond Two Souls on the PlayStation game. Like that's all I could think about watching it. If nothing else, then I like that it's maybe bringing people into liking that style more.
Yeah.
So that's always good.
Are there any other kind of horror movies that you've seen in the last year that you'd recommend, or coming out that you'd recommend?
I'm just trying to think what I go to a horror film festival. I've gone twice now. I'm just trying to think like what they had. Oh, what was it called? There was quite a few films this year that were quite good. There was one called K-Shop. It was a horror film set in a kebab shop, so you can probably work out where that's going. But it kind of done things a bit differently than I expected. The main character is the guy that like runs the kebab shop. It's it wasn't a horror film about like people being like turned into kebab.
Yeah,
it was about a guy doing it. And it ended up being quite good. And I'm just trying to remember the name of the film that I really liked. It's really annoying. I'm on like the page of the film festival, and oh no, here it is. There was a film called We Go On.
Okay.
Which I ended up really liking.
Okay, I need to check that out.
And it was it ended up winning like show of the film of the festival. And it's about a guy that puts an ad in a newspaper, I think it is. And offers a sum of money for anyone that can prove the afterlife exists.
Okay.
And like it could easily be divided. Like the first half is very different than the second half. But I overall just really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it knocked out K-Shop as being like my film of the festival overall. I also got to see like Green Room was there, which like was fairly well covered in like mainstream like media, which is a horror film about like people trapped in a green room, and it's got I'm trying to think, Patrick Stewart was in it.
Oh yeah,
as a neo-Nazi.
Wow.
But yeah, I was telling a friend about it, and I was like, yeah, he had the shaved head already, so he was just like, it's an easy jump. It kind of felt like one of those films, like he's all over the box. It's now on DVD, but like he like the film very clearly like wants it to be a bit of a surprise that he's in it,
right? Because
at first you just hear his voice, and then you only see him from behind,
mm-hmm.
and then like when he actually appears, it's just kind of like, oh, it's Patrick Stewart. It's also got the guy who died this year, who played Chekhov in the newer films,
mm-hmm.
Anton Yevin, I believe it is, and so he's in it as well. It was quite a good film. It was one of those films where like at a certain point, like characters are like dropping like flies, and you're just kind of like, oh, like it's gonna be amazing if anyone survives this. It's not like some films it's like, okay, like 1 or 2 people are going to die, and it's like, no, it's like maybe only 1 or 2 are going to survive this.
So K-Shop, Green Room, and what was the last one?
We Go On.
We Go On, okay.
Which might be a kind of harder one to find, I don't know. Oh, it did have I've forgotten his name now. I think it's John Glover.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, yeah, John Glover and Annette O'Toole, who were both in the TV show Smallville.
Yeah.
And so it was really weird, like, because I saw her and I couldn't place her. And then the second I saw John Glover, I was like, oh, no, wait, she's Annette O'Toole. She was in Smallville. And, like, he was in Smallville because they played, he played Lex Luthor's father and she played Clark Kent's son, Clark Kent's mother. And so it was kind of weird having them like, back together for this film. But no, it was quite an interesting film. I quite enjoyed watching it. And there was a lot of classic films as well at that event. I'm trying to think. I also saw, I don't know if you've seen it, I saw it at the beginning of this year, It Follows.
It sounds familiar, but I don't know if I've seen it.
I really recommend it. It's maybe not a perfect film, but like I really like kind of how tense it is, and it's got music by have you heard of the game Fez?
Yes.
It's got music by the person that done the soundtrack to that Disaster piece, and it's like really kind of dirty synth. It feels, I don't know, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the soundtrack to Day of the Dead.
Oh, cool.
And just like, I really liked that film, and it wasn't perfect, and like I had a lot of questions like at the end of it, but I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. It looks, I'm just giving it a quick Google here, I actually definitely like the look of it.
Yeah, it's I think I kind of went in like knowing very little other than it's about like a group that's like being followed by some creature that like only one of them can see,
right.
and like it ended up being like really good. I've been trying to find like something to watch for Halloween, and I'm really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just there's not been a lot of good horror. There's not much that's like catching my attention. I'm not really sure.
That movie It Follows actually kind of, maybe it's just the graphics and the colours, but it looks a little like Until Dawn or something. There's that kind of feel to it. But maybe it's nothing like that, but it's just the feeling I get from looking at some images.
It's got a very kind of 80s aesthetic to it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like the synth music, and like it's one of those things where like if a character didn't have like a modern looking phone, you'd presume it's possibly set in the 80s. Like it's kind of ambiguous when it's set, and like it's interesting. I really like It Follows.
I often wonder if films that are set in the 80s and stuff like that, were they written in the 80s and they've just decided to not modernize them and just like, okay, let's just take this old script and just use it and like make it modern, or
I mean sometimes you do get things that are like written in the 80s, like American Psycho. Like I want to say the book was written in the 80s, and then when it came to like doing the film, it's like it fits that time period so well that like trying to update it, just wouldn't work. And like
I remember hearing like a weird statistic about that they set it like so many years ahead of its time from the book, like literally a matter of like 3 years, because there was one song they wanted to use, and like that song wouldn't have been released back then or something. So like I think it was a song or something, but for whatever reason they updated it. It was just for some really minor reason.
Yeah, like you sometimes hear about like little things like that, or sometimes they just ignore it. One of the things I watched really early on in like Dead Pixels 2 development was the TV show Ashes to Ashes. And from what I've read, like the car in that show should not be there. Like
right.
It's 3 years after like the show's set.
Mm-hmm.
That car came out, but like they were just kind of like, no, this is the car we want. We're just going to use it, and like hopefully no one like complains too much.
Yeah, those kind of things are never really noticed until, I don't know, like a good while after. Like it shouldn't really spoil.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
film.
average person isn't really going to notice. It's like only people that like people were around then or had like a particular interest in like cars or like music of that time. I mean, you get issues like that of just like, the TV show Millennium at one point has the main character watching X-Files on TV, and then they done an X-Files crossover episode. So like, you know, like both at one point X-Files was just a TV show within his universe, and he watched it, and then like he's meeting Mulder and Scully in another episode. So it's kind of, I don't know, you get little oddities that like, you know, you just have to ignore and not really think about too much. I think what I've tried to do with Dead Pixels is just kind of keep it a little ambiguous, of just like, the zombie apocalypse happened in 87, the game's set in 91. You know, I've got a little wiggle room if I want to like, you know, claim that like, oh no, well this thing from the 90s is here. I did see people complaining about like George Romero's films, the like the dates in them, and like from what I've heard, it kind of has a rolling like zombie apocalypse. So the zombie apocalypse always happened in the present day. So like, even though like Night of the Living Dead set in the 60s and like Land of the Dead was like made in 2000s, like they're both the same universe, but like the zombie apocalypse is just always the present. And so that's why like there's flat screen TVs and stuff in Land of the Dead, because the zombie apocalypse happened in the present, even though it's set like years later. And it's the same with like Dawn of the Dead, you know, even though it's like the 70s, that's when the zombie apocalypse happened. It didn't happen in like the 60s.
Well, yeah, lots of recommendations there anyway, lots of things to look for. I'm not even going to ask anything about release date or anything like that, because I just want you to take your time, and I'm sure plenty of your supporters will be the same.
What I'm currently saying, what I was saying at EGX, is I'm kind of just hoping that like end of this year, like I'll be able to like give a better date.
Yeah.
You know, I want to get the online in, and then I want to get like some other stuff in, and then it's just kind of like a lot of content, which would be nice to just work on. I've got someone working on bosses just now, and so that's kind of nice. In fact, I need to like send him some stuff tonight as reference, which is kind of fun. Like just going through, I've been going through like Evil Dead 2 and 3, and just like taking notes at times, and it's like, okay, I need attacks to look like this.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun. But like, yeah, I'm hoping end of this year I'll be able to just kind of give a better date.
Okay.
And it's kind of annoying. Like, I would have liked to have released before April, because like that's when the tax year is.
Yeah.
And then it's like I'll be 30 in June, so it's like I don't want to be like still working on this when I'm into my 30s as well. That would just feel kind of awful. I do at least like, I feel somewhat good at least that a lot of other indie games from developers I know that started around the same time, they're all working on their games still. And so it's like, to a certain extent, like when I go to events, I always feel a little bad, because like a lot of these people like either release their games or I never see them again. They give up. And it's like, instead I'm just like, I'm constantly coming back to EGX.
There's so many reasons for you to give up, but like
yeah, like I was talking to a friend about, like, we went to Rezzed in 2013, and there was a game on show there that like dropped off the face of the world like a few months later, and like it never got released. And like they were willing to have like a booth there, which cost quite a bit of money, and yet like, you know, a few years later, like no sign of that game at all. And so it's kind of,
I was like, there's a quote from a radio DJ about music, but it was bands have their whole life to release their first album, and then they have a couple of years to release their next one. And I kind of think that's how I see Dead Pixels. Like, you've worked on other games, but you've been really planning your whole life to release Dead Pixels 1, and then all of a sudden you have to follow that up in a pretty short space of time with a game that's probably twice as demanding on your time and stuff.
I mean, a big thing that like I was saying to a friend, like, the original Dead Pixels, like I could make like 3 enemies in a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and then it's like Dead Pixels 1, like I could spend a week working on one enemy. It's ridiculous. Like I want to say like nearly all the buildings of Dead Pixels 1 were drawn while I watched Kill Bill 1 and 2 back to back. And it's like I just sat there and
Exactly.
drew all the buildings. And it's like Dead Pixels 2, it's like, no, it's like an hour per
Yeah.
building.
There's far more going into it, so.
And even then, like, sometimes it can be like just really grueling, like just when something isn't looking the way I want it to, or like I think I spent a silly amount of time trying to do like an Art Deco cinema like a year ago, and like googling what Art Deco, because you knew in your head what an Art Deco cinema looks like, but like trying to like do it. That's one thing I have kind of learned. Like, it's much better for me to like actually look up art of something, and then like look up what it is. Recently redone a lot of the artwork on guns in Dead Pixels 2. I redone all the shotguns, and like the second I looked up a picture of what a pump action shotgun actually looks like, and I'm just like, if I just make this bit a tiny bit smaller and this bit a tiny bit bigger, and then like add this bit, like this looks so much better than what I had before.
Well, I was going to actually end a bit of a silly question, because I was going to end asking what your Halloween plans are, but clearly you're going to be recovering from London Comic Con.
I literally travel back up on Halloween.
Yeah.
So it's
it says here
I think
28th to the 30th is Comic Con. It's the end of this month.
So like I my girlfriend joked that we're just going to be like zombies on the train.
Sleep.
So it's kind of like we both travel up, like fun, and I'll have all the equipment and everything. So I think I'm just going to come back and like just watch. I don't know. I'm going to probably just like sit down and watch something. I'm unsure what, if I'm ordering something just to watch on Halloween, or if I'm gonna just like watch something I've got in my stockpile of films.
Yeah.
I'll maybe watch. I'm tempted to watch Big Trouble in Little China. Just out of like, I think it's been like, I don't know, 6 months since I've seen it, and I'm just like, I wouldn't mind watching that again. Just or maybe I'll just choose something that's like not Halloween related at all, that I just want to watch.
Yeah, Big Trouble's actually on Netflix as well. Like, I have it on DVD, but when something's on Netflix, it's just so much easier just to watch it on that.
Oh yeah, like there's been a few times where it's just like, oh, I've got the DVD here, but the Netflix version will be in HD, and like it can be a bit easier to play. And also, like, if I'm watching something when working, Blu-rays are a bit of a pain to get playing, so like Netflix is so much handier.
All right, well, look, again, thanks for joining me, and hopefully we'll do another one, like, possibly. I know release will just be crazy for you, so maybe, like, I don't know whether we should, like, you'll get a chance, but whenever you get a chance, let's sit down again and have another chat, and I'll definitely...
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing this in, like, a few months again, or, like, doing it, like, beginning of next year, when I'm hopefully got a date in place, or, my like fingers crossed hope is like I'll have a lot more new stuff. Yeah. If we talk again in a month or so, or a couple months.
Well, I don't want to push you, but I'd love to chat about it.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. I like talking about my work, because like I don't really get to do it too often, when I'm by myself, and like occasionally I'll just be like, I just phoned a friend like last week, and I was just like, I have this idea for the game. I need to make sure I'm not crazy. Will you listen to this idea? And just gonna like talk it out with him, and like him like suggesting things and like asking questions, and like and so it's nice to like just talk things over and like not feel like I'm in my own head so much.
All right, man. Well, look, thanks for joining me again, and I look forward to chatting next time.
Yeah, thank you.